Thanks, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, it's great to have an opportunity to talk a little Husky women's basketball. I would like to start by just thanking Sean and Deborah especially for the opportunity to lead this program. It's hard to believe that it's year 4 for me, but when I look at the projection and where we've come from, obviously it's definitely trended in the right direction, and I'm excited to get started again. You know, there's not a time that goes by in our preparation that I don't feel like Husky women's basketball can be relevant and can be a winner at a lot of different levels, and this year is no different. I also do want to point out that most of my staff is in the back. Coach John McGinty, Coach Maria Kaza, our Director of Basketball Operations, Quinn Rear, and then our graduate assistant, Chrissy Akomu. I think Adam Tandez is actually on the road recruiting. God love him, so he couldn't make it today. But, you know, that group was assembled with some pretty specific things in mind, and I think the biggest one was that they share the same passion for the game of basketball that I do, and I think our players feed off of that. I think they're really good from a development standpoint, but I really think that they bring it every day to practice in our individual workouts, and I think our players thrive on that, so I want to thank them for what they do. You know, we've been at it consistently for about 4 weeks now, and you know, we're coming off a kind of a challenging year. 2 years ago, we were feeling really good about winning 20-plus games and going to the postseason. Had pieces back that we really liked, and then unfortunately, we're hit with some fairly devastating injuries that caused us to have to take a step back a little bit and reevaluate how we were going to continue on last season. You know, we had 4 players that had season-ending and/or career-ending injuries. And I looked at the roster, and there was only 4 players on the roster who didn't miss game time. So we got off to a good start, and we're feeling good about where we're at, and then we have to adjust a little bit. The good news is we have 10 returning letter winners. We return about 74% of our scoring, and so looking forward to this year with those kind of statistics and numbers, I think, again, we are excited about the opportunity that this group has to do something special. I think I'll start by going down the roster a little bit. You know, we have 2 seniors, and I could sit up here probably for a couple hours and talk about the seniors that we have on this squad because, again, they were freshmen when I first got here, and they've known nothing but this coaching staff and what we've asked of them. And I don't think that they have disappointed in any way, shape, or form in what they've been able to bring to the program. Again, not just as players, but as people as well. Courtney Woods and Makayla Voigt are both 1,000-point scorers. They're both going to be 4-year starters. They're both very good students. They both have great leadership qualities as far as leadership within our team, leadership within our campus. And they really exemplify what we want all of our student athletes to look like and what we want them to be perceived as. Courtney has an opportunity, if she stays healthy, you know, to be a 2,000-point scorer, and that's not something you talk about very often in basketball. Makayla has the opportunity, again, if she stays healthy, to be a 15-point scorer. And I think those are numbers that are just, you know, the 1,000-point number in basketball is always a benchmark. I mean, if you can get there, you've done something pretty special in your career. So when you're talking about 2,000 points or you're talking about 1,500 points, those numbers are just pretty amazing and speak volumes to the work that they've put in. Courtney returns as the leading scorer in the MAC from her junior season at about 22 points a game. She was also recently named to the Cheryl Miller small forward watch list, which again, at a place like NIU, just gives great notoriety to not just Courtney, but to the institution as well. So that's exciting for her. You know, preseason polls don't always mean anything, but anytime you can get that kind of publicity on a national level, I do think that is pretty special. Makayla returns at about 14 points a game, somebody who's a team captain for us. And again, if I have to pick somebody on the floor as a floor general, as a go-to, as somebody who understands what we need to do in each situation, it would definitely be Makayla. I think her teammates feel the same way. And so again, those 2 seniors are going to really drive the success of this season. Many coaches will stand up here and they'll tell you, your season will be as good as your seniors are willing to take you. I'm fairly confident that with those 2 at the head of what we're trying to do, it could be a pretty special year. If you look at our junior class, we again have some pretty familiar faces. Redshirt junior Allie May is a returning starter. 6'2", somebody who has great finesse and touch around the rim, somebody who can stretch the defense and shoot the three. Really got off to a great start last year and kind of battled through some nagging things that maybe hindered her a little bit from a productivity standpoint. But it's great to have her back as well as somebody we can count on at that forward position. Maya Starks is back. Again, those of you who follow our program know what Maya was able to do in her sophomore year before the injury. Our little general on the floor, making sure that everybody's in the right place at the right time, doing what they need to do. She looks great in practice. She's healthy, doesn't look like she's missed a beat, so we're excited about the opportunity for her to jump back at that point guard position. Abbie Wolcott, again, somebody who has played significant minutes for us. Been a little bit of a rough offseason for Ab as far as trying to get her knee right, but I like where we're trending there. I know that she feels good. She's excited to get back on the floor. And in a short amount of time, she'll be able to do that. The other junior that we have is actually a graduate transfer, Nini Salmi from Finland by way of San Francisco. So her situation is a little bit unique. Most of the time when you talk about grad transfers, you think you're going to get them for one season. But Nini was only played 2 seasons at San Francisco and graduated, so she has 2 seasons of eligibility left. So she'll actually leave here with her master's degree. Great length, 6'2", again, can really shoot it from behind the arc. Has a great understanding of the game because she's been playing it collegiately for the last 3 years. So we're excited to add her in the mix at the forward position. The sophomore class has players that I think collectively have probably improved more than anybody else on the roster. Again, a couple of familiar faces and a couple of familiar names. Janae Poison returns, and she'll be in that sophomore class after her knee injury last year. She's able to get that year back. Somebody as a freshman that was an immediate impact player off the bench for us, a double-digit scorer. When we put her in the game, we expect instant offense from her, and I think she obviously was doing that before the injury last year, so we're excited to have her back in uniform. Paulina Castro is also a redshirt sophomore, thrust back into the lineup in a lot of situations last year, some at the point, some off the ball. And if you watch Paulina play, she's somebody who can really shoot the three as well. I think at the end of the season last year, she ended up shooting at 56% from behind the arc. So the ball goes up and it's out of her hands from long distance. The chances of it going in are pretty good. So we're excited to have her back again, playing in that combination guard position, some at the point, some off the ball. A lot of versatility for her. Erin Hodges is a sophomore. Probably one of the most athletic kids on our team, and again, her skill set has really evolved as far as her ability to handle the basketball. I think Erin's problem as she continues to grow, or as a freshman, was she wanted to play so fast, and maybe her ball skills didn't allow her to do that. So that's really the biggest improvement I see with her, is now she can take the basketball with her. So it matches her athleticism a little bit more, and definitely somebody who gives us a different dynamic on the floor, so I expect her to play significant minutes in the rotation. Riley Blackwell, again, as a freshman, thrust into the lineup at different times. I think what got Riley to the lineup, besides the lack of depth, was really that she has a high basketball IQ. Most of the time she's in the right place at the right time, has a definite nose for the basketball, and is really skilled for her size. She's gotten a lot stronger, as a lot of times you see from their freshman to sophomore year, and I think that will really pay dividends for her as far as being able to compete on the glass. And then the final sophomore is Gabby Nikitinaite. She was hindered with some injuries last year, and we didn't get to see a ton of her, but when Gabby is right and when Gabby is healthy, her feel for the game is unlike anybody else on the roster. She has a little bit of a flair to her game, and when she is feeling it on the offensive end, she's virtually unstoppable. She's had a couple practices where no matter what is going on or who's guarding her or what we're trying to do defensively, she's been able to really stick the ball in the basket. So she's healthy right now. I love what she's doing in practice. And again, somebody who gives us great opportunities to score the basketball, both in the half court and the full court. We have 2 freshman post players. Makayla Branden from Bourbonnais, 6'1" forward, again, kind of fits the mold on our other forwards as far as her skill set, able to shoot the three, really good with both hands around the rim, is versatile, will play some at the 5 for us. Again, a little bit undersized, but definitely able to handle things around the basket. runs the floor really well, which is always important for us in our offensive system. And then the other freshman is Cristina Brita, who is really more of a true post player than we've had in a long time. She's about 6'1", so she's not huge when it comes to height, but she's a back-to-the-basket power player. Loves to catch the ball low and really go to work. Again, skilled around the rim. She has come a long ways in the short amount of time that she's been on campus. She has a lot to learn yet, but I think her ceiling is great and somebody who can definitely help us down the road. You know, I think what sets this team apart and what sets this program apart sometimes is I feel like we're in a position now where everybody on the roster for sure has an understanding of what the expectation is to be a part of the program. And I attribute that to our seniors. You know, when we came in, we changed things up a little bit, and we asked a lot of them, and they bought in from the very beginning. And now it just is what we are and who we are from a cultural standpoint. And sometimes that's what it takes to go from good to great. You know, we're going to be talented enough to compete, but we're not always going to be the most talented team on the floor. But I do believe that there's some characteristics there that can help us overcome maybe those teams that are a little bit more talented. And that's cultural in nature. And again, I really like where we're at on that aspect. This is a really fun team to coach. Every day in practice, when you can just show up and coach basketball and you don't have to worry about any of the things going on off the court, knock on wood. You know, you don't have to worry about what they're doing in the classroom. They're taking care of their business, and you can coach basketball, then that's a pretty exciting place for a coach to be. The first chance to see us in action is really in our exhibition game against St. Francis on November 3rd at 1 o'clock. It's a great opportunity to turn the lights on and really kind of see where you're at. And then we open in our first regular season game here at home on November 8th against Yale in the preseason WNIT. You know, the opportunity to play in that national tournament is going to be a lot of fun, and really having the opportunity to start it at home is even that much more exciting. We haven't played Yale before. Their program has been very, very successful. They actually won the WBI postseason tournament last year. And then that's a 3-game guarantee tournament, so after that we don't really know. Wins, losses, and it's not even all bracketed out, so that's kind of TBD on the next 2 games after that. As far as the games that we're going to on the road, we get an opportunity to go to the Indiana University, which again is a great basketball tradition place to go. It'll be great for our players, and an exciting game to play. They won the postseason WNIT last year, so again, a great program at the Big Ten level, so that'll be exciting. And then we're going to play in 2 different tournaments. One is at Montana. We'll play UC Davis in Nevada at Montana. And then we started what we're calling the Compass Challenge. So we're going to go to Carbondale, and we're going to play Southern and Western, and Eastern will be there as well, although they're contracted to come back to us. But that's a 4-year rotating tournament where all 4 of us will play at each institution's location. So next year they'll come here, and it will be a tournament format. Since those are teams that we play generally anyway, it only makes sense. And so there'll be some flair to that with a traveling trophy and a name. So that will be exciting. Some of our home games, we have an opportunity to play North Dakota State here at home. And then we finished the year with 3 home games against Eastern Illinois, Chicago State, and Brown University. So as always, and I think since I've been here, I think it's a great balance of teams that will really, really challenge us. A lot of great regional Illinois teams to play, and then the opportunity to spread our wings a little bit and go out and see how we compete with some of the other really good mid-major schools in the country. So I like that balance. I think that's good preparation for the MAC. You know, Monty talked a little bit about the MAC, and there's a lot of similarities on the women's side as far as what teams have been able to do in preparation for the postseason. But I think if you look at what the women did last year, it's arguably one of the best years on the women's side as far as getting 2 teams to the tournament. And then not only getting there, but having Central and Buffalo make the run that they did, both getting to the Sweet 16. I think the trend there from a women's basketball standpoint couldn't be higher. I think you have some really great players, but I think you have really some great coaches and stability in the league. Because of that and because of the balance, then it's anybody's game to win. You know, I don't expect it to be any different. There's very little separation between the top and the bottom, but you got to win the close ones. You got to compete every night, and I think somebody even mentioned Amani, you got to really try and hold serve at home and win your home games because it's tough to win on the road. So we're looking forward to the opportunity in that race to get ourselves back to Cleveland. You know, if you ask our players right now, I think the one thing they would tell you as far as their goals is obviously to win a MAC championship. But they are very aware of us falling short of getting to Cleveland last year, and that's not a taste that they really want to have happen again. And then that will be taken care of from a senior leadership standpoint, and I'm excited about where that can take us. Does anybody have any questions for me? You know, it doesn't. I think actually it reverts back a little bit to the way we were. Our focus will always be to get up and down the floor and play in the open court and try and score the basketball. You know, when you look at what happened last year, I think the first 11 games or so, when we were still what I would say fairly healthy, we were able to do that. We could push the basketball, we could score in transition. Kelly obviously fit that bill very well. With the injuries that we had in the backcourt, it forced us to, we were still able to score the basketball, it forced us to slow down just a little bit. And I look at this roster as the opportunity to get back to really being able to push the pace. And when I first took this job, I said there was two things we were going to be. We were going to be the most unselfish team, and we were going to be the best conditioned team. And I don't think those things have changed. We still want to do those two things, and I think we are. I think we will. And again, if we stay healthy, we're a lot deeper than we were last year, and we'll be able to get up and down the floor and keep that pace consistent for 40 minutes. I do, and I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, you mentioned everybody on the roster now has only played for me or for this staff. And I think the staff piece of it is huge as well. I feel like we've gotten to the point from a roster standpoint and a coaching staff standpoint that we are all on the same page all the time. I talked a little bit about senior leadership and developing the culture that we need to be consistent. I feel really good about where we are at right now. And then from a recruiting standpoint, knowing what type of talent and student athletes we're bringing into that culture, I think is key as well. So all of those things, I think, play a part to the comfort of consistently being able to stand up here and say, we want to vie for a championship. I don't know if I can say 100% healthy, but I like the way we're trending. I do think Maya looks as close to 100% as I would expect her to at this point. And we have some kids with some nagging things, but again, it's nothing that I think is going to keep anybody out for an extended period of time. But I don't know that I can say 100% either. So I think that's why I continue to be really optimistic, because we really have had kids step up, get better, and I do think we'll be deeper. And as those players that are nagging, have some of those nagging things continue to get better, it really gives us some options from a depth standpoint. She had to have some minor cleanup stuff in the off season, and it's taken a little bit longer, but we're optimistic, and the medical team is optimistic about her return. It will be shortly, I think, that we'll be able to get her back on the court, and she's chomping at the bit. I mean, the thing about Abbie, and a lot of these kids, but especially her, is she's doing everything she can to prepare herself within what the limitations are medically to get ready. So once they turn her loose, she's going to be ready to go. Yeah. Well, I think because of those things, the evolution of her minutes and the maturation now that she's a junior, the expectations continue to rise. I think probably the biggest thing that I see with Abbie, obviously she's continued to get better from a basketball standpoint, but as a junior, she is much more comfortable from a leadership standpoint and being able to hold her teammates accountable. She's been a great coach on the sideline, even now early when she hasn't been able to practice full, in understanding what we're what we're trying to do, helping the younger kids understand what we're trying to do. And I think that's why when she does get back on the court, that process will really be sped up as far as her readiness to play. I think ideally you want your roster to have good balance. Obviously you want it to be really talented, but you want to have good balance. Again, you want to have great senior leadership, which I think we have. You want to have some dynamic players within each class, so continuously you hope to not have to start over. And I do think that's the way this roster is made up right now. You know, you have some red shirts jumping around because of injury, but at the end of the day, you have kids continue to evolve as players as they get older. And I think if you can consistently be like that, then it bodes well for the future. You know, I think the difference, and I would say this about Courtney and Makayla, they've been known for 3 years as being really great scorers from behind the arc. They can shoot the basketball at a high rate, score at a high rate. I think both of them have gotten a lot better as far as putting the ball on the floor. For Courtney, and she would laugh when I said this, but she's gotten better on the defensive end. You know, we've relied on her a lot on the offensive end, and we've relied on Makayla a lot on the defensive end. And I think Courtney has gotten better as far as being an overall player in all aspects of the game. And so I think that's what makes her that much more dangerous, or what maybe is a different level for her. I don't know that the mentality as far as being able to get or stay healthy has been different, but I can tell you the mentality of not ending the season in Cleveland has been something that has been a great driving force in our preparation for this year. A lot of these guys on the roster remember sitting on the sidelines in Cleveland and watching Toledo cut down the nets, and it's something they haven't forgotten, and they talk about it all the time. They want to be in that position again, only on the receiving end of it and not on the positive end of it and not sitting there watching. So I think that's what drives them. You know, the expectations are high. I can sit up here, and I would hope every coach at this point stands at the podium and says they're optimistic about the season. Otherwise, it would be a really long 6 months. But I think when your players talk about it amongst themselves all the time on what does it take, and they have an idea what it takes, because we were close. And we did put ourselves in position, and many of them are around to experience that. I think that's probably one of the most exciting things. Is it's not necessarily staff-driven, it's player-driven. And anytime you can get that, I think that's a lot more powerful. Thank you. Thanks.